Welcome to this essential tutorial on clinical trial oversight and regulatory readiness. That means we will cover everything related to audits, inspections, and others related to them. So, if you're working in clinical research as a study coordinator or a sponsor representative or part of a medical affairs team, or you are an investigator, this is very important for you because oversight is everything. Good science, ethical conduct, reliable data, they all depend on one thing: making sure the trial is being conducted as planned, by the book, and with complete transparency. That's why in this session, we're going to walk through 4 major topics that are foundational to maintaining trust and compliance in your clinical trials. First, we'll break down the 3 main types of monitoring: on-site, remote, and centralized. Then, we'll dive into the core responsibilities of the monitor, from verifying data accuracy to ensuring subject protection and documenting deviations. Next, we'll clarify the difference between an audit and an inspection. And finally, we'll guide you through how to prepare for and manage regulatory inspections. So even if you're brand new to clinical research or managing a portfolio of global trials, this tutorial will help you better understand the systems that keep research credible and keep your name and your institution on the right side of ethics and regulation. Let's start with a closer look at the types of monitoring used in clinical trials, because this is not just a box-checking exercise. Monitoring is what ensures that trials are conducted properly, ethically, and with data you can actually trust. And depending on the size of the study, the complexity of the design, the phase of development, or even the geographic reach, the monitoring approach can vary. But at its core, monitoring has one purpose: to protect the rights, safety, and well-being of participants, and to ensure that the data collected are accurate, complete, and verifiable from source documents. Now, there are 3 primary types of monitoring used in clinical research today. 1. On-site monitoring. Let's start with the traditional approach: on-site monitoring. This is exactly what it sounds like. The monitor physically travels to the clinical site. Could be a hospital, a private clinic, or a research center, and reviews everything in person. What do they actually do during an on-site visit? Source data verification, SDV. They compare the entries in the case report forms, CRFs, or electronic data capture system against the source documents, like lab results, patient charts, or clinic notes. Informed consent checks. They ensure each subject has signed the correct version of the informed consent form before any procedures took place. Drug accountability. They'll check how investigational products are stored, who has access, and whether the usage matches the patient logs. Regulatory documentation review. Think delegation logs, training records, protocol deviations, and adverse event reporting. Now, on-site monitoring gives you a deep level of oversight, and it's particularly useful for complex protocols, high-risk studies, first-in-human trials, or when you're onboarding a new site or investigator. But here's the catch: on-site monitoring is time-consuming, expensive, and logistically demanding, especially for multi-country or global studies. 2. Remote monitoring. Now, let's talk about remote monitoring, which gained a lot of attention during the COVID-19 pandemic, but has actually been around for years. Instead of traveling to the site, the monitor conducts activities from a distance. This could include logging into the electronic data capture, EDC system, from their laptop, reviewing e-source or scanned copies of documents uploaded by the site, having phone or video calls with the study coordinator, checking email communications, query responses, and status reports. Remote monitoring offers several advantages: lower cost, faster turnaround, reduced travel burden, more flexibility for both monitors and sites. However, it does come with limitations. For instance, some documents cannot legally be shared electronically in certain countries. Remote access may be restricted due to institutional firewalls or lack of e-source, and you lose that in-person intuition. You can't observe body language, site organization, or team dynamics quite the same way. That said, remote monitoring has proven especially valuable for low-risk studies, follow-up phases, sites with a solid track record, and in situations where travel is restricted, it's no longer just a backup plan. It's becoming part of the standard toolkit. 3. Centralized monitoring. And finally, we have centralized monitoring, which is often the least understood, but arguably the most powerful. Centralized monitoring involves data review and analysis from a central location, usually done by data scientists, biostatisticians, and centralized clinical teams. Here's what it looks like. Statistical trend analysis across sites, looking for outliers, inconsistencies, or data anomalies. Trigger-based alerts when a site's performance metrics deviate from the expected remote quality checks, like checking how quickly adverse events are being reported or whether certain data fields are frequently left incomplete. Data visualization tools to assess patterns and highlight risks proactively. This is very important because centralized monitoring helps you detect issues that might otherwise go unnoticed during a site visit. For example, one site may be recruiting at twice the speed of others. Are they really screening properly? Another may have a 0% adverse event rate, which could mean underreporting, or the same user could be entering all data, raising potential concerns around delegation of duties. Centralized monitoring is not about replacing human judgment, it's about enhancing it with data intelligence. It's especially effective in large global trials, risk-based monitoring models, complex therapeutic areas like oncology or rare diseases, and hybrid trial designs where both on-site and remote components exist. How these types work together. Here's the key takeaway. These aren't mutually exclusive models. In fact, most modern trials use a blend of all three. You might start a study with on-site monitoring to ensure quality and training, then shift to remote for efficiency, while continuously using centralized tools to identify red flags or outliers. It's part of what we call risk-based monitoring, RBM, where monitoring resources are directed toward areas of greatest risk. Ultimately, the monitoring strategy should be tailored to the risk level of the trial, the experience of the site, and the complexity of the protocol. And when done right, it ensures we uphold the highest standards of ethics, quality, and credibility in every single study. Now, let's move and discuss the monitor responsibilities. The monitor has a role that is absolutely essential to every clinical trial, yet often misunderstood outside of clinical operations teams. So, who is the monitor? They're often referred to as the Clinical Research Associate, or CRA, and they serve as the critical link between the sponsor and the trial site. But their role is much more than just being the sponsor's eyes and ears. The monitor ensures that the rights and well-being of participants are protected. The data reported are accurate, complete, and verifiable. The trial is conducted in compliance with the approved protocol, GCP guidelines, and all applicable regulations. Let's unpack what that actually looks like, because the responsibilities are broad, nuanced, and deeply impactful. 1. Preparation. Before the trial begins, the monitor's job doesn't start with the first patient visit. In fact, they're heavily involved before recruitment even begins. They're responsible for site selection visits, assessing potential investigators and facilities to determine if they're suitable for the trial feasibility assessments. Reviewing site infrastructure, staffing, previous experience, and patient pool initiation support. Helping sites understand the protocol, the regulatory requirements, and the systems they'll use during the study. And once the site is confirmed, the monitor helps with training site staff on protocol procedures, safety reporting, investigational product handling, and documentation. Ensuring that all essential documents, like regulatory approvals, CVS, and signed contracts, are in place before the site is activated. This early engagement is critical to setting up the study for success. 2. Monitoring visits, oversight in action. Once the trial is underway, monitors conduct routine visits, either on-site or remotely, to oversee the study's conduct. Here's what they focus on. Source data verification, SDV. They check that the data entered in the CRFs or EDC matches the original source documents, like medical records or lab reports. This ensures data integrity and helps identify errors or omissions early. Informed consent. Review monitors verify that the correct version of the informed consent was used, that it was signed before any procedures were done, and that it's stored properly. Why is this so important? Because consent is not just a form, it's an ethical cornerstone of every clinical study. Investigational product accountability. They ensure proper storage, temperature control, inventory tracking, and accurate documentation of dosing. If drug accountability doesn't match up, it raises serious red flags. Protocol compliance and deviations. The monitor reviews whether procedures are being followed as per protocol. If deviations are identified, whether minor or major, they must be documented, reported, and addressed with appropriate corrective action. Safety reporting. They confirm that adverse events, AEs, and serious adverse events, SAEs, are being reported correctly and within timelines, and that follow-up is properly documented. Regulatory binder and essential documents. The monitor checks that the investigator site file is up to date, that all logs are maintained, and that training and delegation records reflect actual practice. This isn't just an audit trail, it's proof of compliance and readiness for inspection. 3. Ongoing communication and issue resolution monitors are not just inspectors, they're collaborators. They're in constant communication with the site, by phone, email, or in person, supporting the site staff with clarifying protocol questions, resolving data queries, following up on action items from previous visits, sharing updates from the sponsor or CRO. They also act as the first line of defense in identifying risks, trends, or site performance issues. If enrollment is lagging, if queries are unresolved, if compliance is slipping, the monitor is expected to flag it early and help course correct. This is where their soft skills, like communication, empathy, and problem solving, are just as important as their technical training. 4. Closeout activities. When the trial at the site comes to an end, the monitor doesn't just walk away. They're responsible for the closeout visit, which includes confirming that all data have been collected, verified, and entered, ensuring that all investigational product has been returned or destroyed, verifying that essential documents are archived properly, conducting an exit interview to identify lessons learned and document unresolved issues. And finally, they help ensure that no patient is left behind, meaning that any post-study care or communication is coordinated as per the protocol or ethical guidelines. Documentation, documentation, documentation. Throughout the study, monitors are required to document everything. Monitoring visit reports, follow-up letters to the site performance metrics, deviations, queries, and issue logs. Why? Because in clinical trials, if it isn't documented, it didn't happen. Their documentation serves as a real-time record of how the trial is being conducted and can be used during inspections by regulatory authorities like the FDA, EMA, or local ethics committees. 6. A critical role that requires balance. Being a monitor is not easy. You're balancing multiple stakeholders, timelines, and responsibilities. You're expected to uphold the highest standards while also maintaining a good working relationship with busy investigators and study coordinators. You need to know the protocol inside out. You need to be familiar with GCP and ICH guidelines. And you need to adapt because every site is different and every trial brings new challenges. But when done right, monitoring is one of the most rewarding roles in clinical research because it directly protects patients, supports site staff, and ensures the quality of the science that will one day bring new treatments to the world. To this point, we need to discuss two words that often make everyone in clinical research sit up a little straighter: audit and inspection. They sound similar. They're both about reviewing processes and documentation, and they both involve someone going through your work with a magnifying glass. But they are not the same. So now, we'll break down the difference between an audit and an inspection, why they matter, what triggers them, and what role you play as a site team, monitor, sponsor, or medical affairs professional. So, what is an audit? An audit is a systematic, independent review of trial-related activities and documents. But here's the key point. It's initiated by the sponsor or CRO, not the regulator. Think of it like an internal health check before an official exam. Audits are typically conducted by the sponsor's quality assurance team, an independent auditor hired by the sponsor, or even third-party consultants. The purpose? To verify that 1. The trial is being conducted and documented in compliance with the protocol, GCP, and applicable regulations. 2. The data being collected is reliable. 3. The rights and well-being of subjects are being protected. 4. The systems and processes in place are working as they should. Audits may be routine, scheduled in advance as part of the sponsor's quality system, or for cause, triggered by a suspected issue, protocol deviation, or signal during monitoring. They might look at informed consent documentation, source data, and CRF entries, drug accountability delegation logs, adverse event handling, site compliance and training records. But regardless of scope, audits are confidential. The findings are reported to the sponsor, not regulators. They're an opportunity to fix gaps before they become regulatory violations. Then, what is an inspection? An inspection is a formal review conducted by a regulatory authority like the FDA, EMA, MHRA, or your local Ministry of Health. It's a legal and official action. And it's done to ensure that 1. The rights and safety of subjects were protected. 2. The data submitted to support an application, like a drug approval, are accurate and trustworthy. 3. The sponsor and investigator complied with GCP and regulatory requirements. Inspections can happen. Pre-approval to verify data that supports a marketing application. For cause, in response to a complaint, whistleblower report, or concern routine, as part of an agency's oversight schedule. Unlike audits, inspection outcomes can have serious consequences, including 1. Inspectional findings or deficiency letters, like Form 483 from the FDA. 2. Warning letters or sanctions. 3. Rejection of trial data. 4. Clinical hold on a product. 5. Site or sponsor disqualification in extreme cases. Inspectors may show up with short notice or no notice at all and have the right to interview staff, review documents, inspect facilities and equipment, observe processes in real time, and their reports can become public record. Now let's walk through a quick side-by-side comparison of audits and inspections so you can clearly understand how they differ and what each means for you. First up, who conducts them? An audit is initiated by the sponsor, a CRO, or their internal quality assurance team. It's an internal check to make sure everything's running smoothly. An inspection, on the other hand, is conducted by a regulatory authority, like the FDA, EMA, or MHRA. This is a formal external process. What's the purpose? The audit is focused on quality assurance. Are the systems in place? Is documentation accurate? Are processes compliant with GCP? An inspection is about regulatory compliance. It ensures that ethical and legal standards are met and the data used for approval is reliable. What triggers each? Audits are often routine, but can also be triggered for cause, like when something seems off in a monitoring report. Inspections may be routine too, but also happen pre-approval, or when there's a complaint or concern about the site. Let's talk about audit results. They stay with the sponsor and are used to guide improvements. Inspection outcomes, however, may become public record, especially if findings are serious. Think FDA warning letters, for example. Now, the consequences. An audit might lead to CAPAs, corrective and preventive actions, or staff retraining. An inspection could lead to data being rejected, regulatory sanctions, or even a clinical hold on your product. This is why inspections often feel higher stakes. And finally, the focus areas. Audits dive into processes, systems, and documentation. They look for consistency and alignment with GCP. Inspections go deep into compliance, subject protection, and data credibility, ensuring the trial can withstand public and regulatory scrutiny. That is to say that whether you're an investigator, study coordinator, monitor, or medical affairs team member, you have a role in preparing for both audits and inspections. You need to ensure that your documentation is complete and organized. Informed consent is always up to date. Adverse events are documented and reported. Deviations are explained and addressed. Essential documents are where they should be, in the ISF or TMF. Your site and staff are trained, and delegation logs are accurate, and most importantly, you're not scrambling to fix things when someone walks through the door. And here is a bonus tip. Always be inspection ready. A good rule of thumb in clinical trials is, if it's not documented, it didn't happen. Auditors and inspectors are not trying to catch you. They're trying to verify that what you claim happened actually did happen. So your job is to make sure the story is clear, the evidence is complete, and the ethical standards are upheld. Now we come to the last part of this tutorial, how to prepare and handle a regulatory inspection. Whether it's the FDA, EMA, MHRA, or any other regulatory authority, inspections are serious business. But here's the good news. If you understand what to expect, prepare properly, and manage the process professionally, inspections don't have to be terrifying. They can actually showcase your team's credibility and readiness. Let's break it down into two parts: how to prepare for a regulatory inspection and how to handle the inspection when it's happening. Preparation starts long before you get that official notification letter. Build a culture of inspection. Readiness. Inspections aren't just an event. They reflect the quality of your daily work. So instead of scrambling when you hear an auditor is coming, your mindset should be, we're always ready. That means proper documentation, consistent compliance with SOPs, accurate source data, and clear delegation of responsibilities, day in and day out. Know the scope. Regulatory inspections can focus on the investigator site, the sponsor or CRO, a specific protocol or indication, or even system-wide processes like pharmacovigilance or data integrity. Understand why they're coming. Is it a routine inspection? For cause? Pre-approval? That will help you tailor your preparation. Conduct a mock inspection. Bring in your QA team or even an external consultant to simulate the inspection experience. Practice document retrieval, walk through interviews, and identify weak points. Think of this as a dress rehearsal for the real show. Review essential documents. Make sure the trial master file, TMF, or investigator site file, ISF, is complete, current, and organized. Is your delegation log up to date? Are monitoring reports and protocol deviations documented properly? Is informed consent documented for every participant? These are common inspection targets. Train your team. Everyone should know what their responsibilities are, where to find relevant documents, how to respond to inspector questions honestly and concisely. And here's an important point. If someone doesn't know the answer, it's okay to say so. Just don't guess. Offer to find the right information. What about handling the inspection? Yes, now the day has arrived. The inspector walks through the door. What now? First impressions. Greet them professionally. Provide a clean, quiet inspection room. Designate an inspection coordinator to manage logistics. Appoint a scribe to document every request and response. Provide documents, promptly but carefully. Don't overwhelm the inspector with a flood of papers. Only provide what is requested. Keep track of what's handed over and retain copies for your records. Answer questions clearly and truthfully. Be honest. If there's a mistake, own it and show what's been done to fix it. Never speculate or guess. If you don't understand the question, ask for clarification. Stay calm under pressure. Even if the inspector's tone is tough, remain professional. Don't argue. Don't get defensive. Remember, your body language and attitude are part of the inspection too. Daily debriefings. Ask for a daily summary of findings, if allowed. This gives you a chance to clarify or correct issues in real time, rather than waiting for the final report. Still, we need to talk about what is after the inspection. Once the inspector leaves, your job isn't done yet. Conduct a team debrief document what was reviewed, discussed, and requested. Capture lessons learned while they're still fresh. Respond promptly to findings. If you receive an inspection report, such as an FDA Form 483, develop a corrective and preventive action plan, CAPA. Your response should address each finding, outline root cause analysis, include timelines and accountability, show how recurrence will be prevented. A thoughtful, timely response can go a long way in maintaining regulatory trust. So what's the takeaway? Regulatory inspections aren't a gotcha moment. They're part of our shared commitment to quality, ethics, and patient safety. If your team is well prepared, transparent, and confident in their processes, inspections become an opportunity, not a threat. Because in clinical research, trust isn't just earned once. It's demonstrated every single day through documentation, communication, and a culture of accountability. Let's take a step back and recap what we've covered. We explored the 3 key types of monitoring, showing how on-site, remote, and centralized approaches each contribute to data quality and subject safety in different ways. We examined the responsibilities of clinical monitors, the unsung heroes who serve as the eyes and ears of the sponsor on the ground. We cleared up the confusion between audits and inspections, emphasizing how audits are proactive and internal, while inspections are external and regulatory driven. And finally, we walked through how to prepare for and navigate regulatory inspections with confidence. At the end of the day, clinical oversight isn't just a checklist, it's a mindset. It's about ensuring that what we do in research stands up to scrutiny, protects patients, and produces data we can trust. Thanks for joining, and see you in the next session.